Well, like Eagle had introduced us before, just to give a real quick introduction, my name is Brad. This is my wife Tracy sitting up here in the front with the iPad. We are the founders of Fear Crafters up in Lincoln, Nebraska. We also have Tammy, who is manning the booth for us right now, is one of our original co-founders. And we also have two more of our members that just showed up, Kim and Danny back there. So, all of the stones that I make, I've been doing stones for, I don't know, a number of years. Each one is hand cast, handmade. They are one of a kind, and each one is unique in its own right. Some of the things I'm going to show you here today, you may or may not have known how to do or may use yourself. My hope is if I can show you one tip, trick, idea, then I've done my job. When I go to create a stone, the first thing I ask myself or have to decide is if it's going to be a modern or more of a aged or older stone. That is going to determine what I use to carve out the epitaph with. There's basically three tools that I use. I'll use either hot wire, regular snap blade, or a Dremel tool. And depending on the stone, like I mentioned, Dremel tool is a little more modern stone that I'll use because it looks more cut out, like you see in tombstones of these days. The hot wire I'll use for more of the, if I'm doing kind of a scroll technique where it's real fine lettering, that's where I will use the hot wire. And then, like I said, I also use the snap blade. And I've got three samples here. Now, first of all, I did this top one with hot wire. Normally, I would not do that because these letters are too big for that, and you'll understand why when you take a look at this sample. But I've got three samples here for you to kind of take a look at and see the different textures and the different results that each one of those gives you. And we can have these back at our table for you to look at. So those get pass them around, but everybody's kind of scattered out here. So we'll have those available if you want to take a look at that. Once you've created your stone and made your stone, the one thing that separates it from the rest is how realistic it looks and how well you can age it and make it realistic. I'm going to show you some aging techniques that I use. Like I said, you may or may have not heard of these before or used them yourself, but if I can show you one thing, I've done my job. All right, can everybody still hear me okay? Okay, good. All right. Brought a couple samples up here with me. You notice the chipping on this. One of the first things I'll do, once I have the blank made out of the styrofoam, then I'll decide how I'm going to age it, how many cracks it's going to have, how many chips it's going to have, what I want it to look like. I'm going to put in the epitaph there so I can work around that, around the lettering. One of the first things I'll do is I'll do some chipping on it. And there's some different things you can use for that. A lot of times what I use is a screwdriver. And you can create your chips and just kind of put them wherever up on the edges there, and all you put two or three on the stone. The next thing you want to do on that is put in some cracks. The one thing that I use hot wire for is to create my cracks on the stone. Now you can use a Dremel tool, but I prefer hot wire because it gives you a lot more jagged effects, and that's part of the trick to making realistic cracks on a stone. You don't want a smooth flow, you just want kind of a herky-jerky movement with your hand.
No, that's why I told you to lose the shades.
Yeah.
Yes, they did.
And there again, we'll have this available back at the table and walk it back and take a look at. But I'll put a few cracks in there.
Hold it up so everybody can see.
One thing at a time. There again, I don't know whether you can see this or not, but you can get back and take a look at it. Once I've done stuff like this, I'm going to do a black wash on this. Okay? And I use just regular craft paint to do this. But I will water it down a little bit. And you want a little bit watered down. You don't want to water it down so much that you lose all your coloring, but you want it fairly watered down so that the paint will flow pretty freely with this. And this one here, you see I've already got some chips up here. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to go over the cracks. Basically everything I've done to the stone to make it age. And I'll fill all that in with a black wash. Now, another aging technique that I use a lot of, and you can see it on these two stones, you get pitting on your stones, okay, as the more they age. And that is done using a simple little pencil torch. I actually got this, I think, at Harbor Freight. You can get these at just about any hardware store. It comes in real handy. And what you're going to want to do is you got, and I'll use a spray ball constantly as I'm working this stuff. You want to spray the styrofoam, kind of get it wet first, and that's when you hit it with the pencil torch after that.
Now, have you done that on the pink foam, babe? Just the white?
Just white.
Okay.
And there's a little bit of a trick to this. You have to kind of gauge it. And the trick is to be able to pull the flame back quickly, because when it starts to burn, it goes fairly quick. But there's really no pattern, and you don't want pattern that you can easily distinguish. You just want it kind of random on the stone. And that's how you gotta get that pitting technique. Okay? And same thing, I'll go over that with some watered down black paint, craft paint, and blacken that out. So, by the time it's all said and done, I'll have all of this blacked out, including the lettering, all the aging that I've done to the stone. And then you go over it with your base coat, and it should turn out to be something like this. What's that? Depends on what I'm doing to it.
Okay, but how long does it make that giant gray one?
I didn't time myself. But there are some stones, depending on what I'm doing to them, what kind of appliances I'm adding to them, what kind of techniques I'm using, start to finish from blanking out the stone. There are some stones I do that have well over 50, 60 steps involved before I end up with the finished product.
So I'm thinking about 10 hours for the stone? On average?
Possibly. Yeah, possibly. Just depends on how elaborate they are.
That's about why there's no mass production of that.
What's that?
I bet it's why there's no mass production.
That would be correct.
That's why I'm thinking that.
Yeah.
You know,
Brad, how do you do the gray overcoat without getting it into the black?
You don't.
You dry brush it or?
Dry brush it, yeah. Yeah, basically, when I'm coming around this area, it's more of a dry brush technique. Does everybody know what a dry brush technique is? Okay. When I'm getting around this area here, yeah, if you want to do more of a dry brush, will you get gray into here? Yes, you will, okay? But you can always come back and touch that up with black.
Or the mini roller?
Well, yeah, you can use a mini roller too, yeah. But, yeah, in these bigger areas, I'm not, you don't have to worry about that, but especially where you're going over like the pitting, you do almost a dry brush technique. So you've got that black showing through.
Yeah. You want a little bit of the gray to touch on some of the areas you've chunked out too. Just a little bit. It makes it give it a realistic look too.
Yep.
Yeah, a little highlights here and there, and like if you do a big chunk, it's kind of a little bit here and there. Helps make it look real. Yep, Brad uses all white foam. He just likes the way it works with him better.
So on this one here now, normally I would dab some gray in there too, but I wanted to leave this black so you can kind of see the difference. But to create depth on your chip, the more colors you do, the more depth that's going to have. So I'm going to come back with this same color gray, and I'm just going to lightly highlight it in spots. Okay? See the difference that makes? You got what?
The stone into that shape of a square.
These here?
No, like the.
Shape of the stone.
Oh, this? No, I just cut this out. This piece of foam. So you can see. This is demonstrating.
No, but I mean, when you're making like this for sale, what you.
What I use? A jigsaw. Yeah, a lot of the stones I use a jigsaw and cut out. So I'm going to put a little bit of gray in there, just kind of give it some highlight, and that's going to give it some of that depth. And if you want to add a little bit of moss to that, I'll usually use a couple different shades of green.
Brad, did you grab the new battery?
No, that's still there for,
Okay.
it's on tape.
Okay.
So, and there you go, guys. I know you're not going to be able to see it real well from where you're sitting, but we'll have these back there that you can go back and take a look at. On moss, I'll use a couple different colors of green. I might add a little tinge of yellow into that as well, just to kind of give it that three-dimensional look and give it a little more depth. Same thing on this one. This is more of a cream-based stone. And I'll come in and just kind of, I believe this technique is called stippling. And those different colors are going to give you more of your three-dimensional look on that. Okay?
How did you get a skull on there?
That was glued. Glued on.
How did you make it look like that's part of the stone and not just glued on?
Practice.
Did you make it look
That,
like
well.
looks like perfect?
This one here in particular, this is just a regular foam skull. And I cut the back half of the head off and I glued it on. And I'll usually go around the edge of it with like liquid nail and just kind of smooth that seam out. Okay. Now once you've got all that done, you can decide what you want to do with the stone itself. I'll do spongy techniques. This one's actually got a couple different colors on it. And if you look at it closely, you'll see different grays. You'll see a little bit of brown here and there. And then I'll go into aging. This is one technique that I use for aging. Any of you ever seen, there's one technique that's out there. Actually, after you paint your base of your stone, let's say we're using a cream color, and then you go over the stone again with black, and you paint the whole thing black, and then you go outside and take the hose to it. Okay? That is one technique. Now, if you're in the dead of winter and it's 30 below out, I don't feel like standing out there with a hose spraying styrofoam in the snow. So, one thing that I kind of came up with, and actually a lot of stones I do anymore, I use this technique. And there again, the spray ball is by my side constantly when I'm doing that. This stone here, there again, you gotta wet the surface of it because I want the colors to blend and bleed a little bit. I'm going to come in here with some browns, and I'll use different shades of browns, yellows, greens. Now I'm constantly spraying this. I'm going to try not to make too much of a mess here, but I'm just going to give you a brief idea. But spray with the spray ball and see how those colors start to run. Okay, that's going to give you that nice aged effect on there. And that's how this stone here is done. Then I'll come back, once I've got the stone the way I like it, I'll take those same colors and I'll go around to the top edge of the stone, just kind of blend it in. And there again, using kind of a stippling effect, just to give it some color around the edges. Gray stones, more times than not, I'll just use like a cream base and create those streaks. And then I'll bring a couple of trails along the down. And that's what's done on this stone here, the gray one. The part of the trick is to dampen your stone first. And there again, that's going to help those colors to kind of run for you and bleed. And after you get some paint on there, I can come in here and I can kind of spray it a little bit. So you start getting that run on your color. Now you can come back in with a smaller brush, like on this one here. I use the smaller brush just to paint some trails down the stone. Another little thing that you can do on something like this, where I've gone in here and I've rounded out the design of the pattern in the stone, just give it a little highlights. You notice here around all these edges, there again, I used the same color paint, and I just kind of dry brushed it in there around the edges to help give it a little more definition.
How did you do that? Say a rounder?
Rounder, yep. Rounder on Dremel. Yep. So that's what I say. Depending on the stone I'm doing, they can take a while.
Do you need the battery yet? Okay, hold on, let me take a second here.
I'll use pink. If I'm doing like a marble, then I might use the pink foam because it's a much denser and heavier styrofoam. These are all sandwiched together. what I'll usually do, I use 1.5 or 2-inch foam. I'll usually use 2 pieces, like that big cream one that's sitting at the end of the table. I believe that's 3 or 4. They're all glued together. I'll come back, I'll cover up the seam on these. Once I've got it glued together, I'll come back over with joint compound, and I'll fill that seam in, so you get rid of that seam. So. What's that?
What are you using to glue those together with?
I just use liquid nail. There's a couple things on the market. There's PL300 and there's also liquid nail. The PL300 is a lot heavier, I guess, glue. The PL300 will, or the liquid nails will stay liquid or fluid a little bit longer. So if you need a little extra time to kind of work it and shift it around, that's the one I'll use. But, yeah.
Flower and everything on the front.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. That's why I brought this stone up here, for one, among the other reasons. You're only limited by your creativity, okay? Inspiration comes from everywhere. Christmas time is a great time to search for things for tombstones, because guess what? All those ornaments, cupids, those sorts of things, there you go, okay? At the end of the summer, when all of the garden stuff, the statuary is going on sale, there you go, tombstones. In fact, that big one back there has that little cupid sitting on the end. That's a garden statue, okay? This here, those flowers are cheap plastic ones you get from the dollar store. And what I've done is I've gone in and I have covered those with Monster Mud. Yep. You attach it to your phone, you coat it in Monster Mud, and then, yeah, there you go.
And then seal it over with kind of water.
Paint it. Yeah, I didn't seal that with anything. I just went over it. All the paint that I use is an exterior latex. So, but yeah, that's just cheap plastic flowers you get from, like I said, from the dollar store. Some of this stuff is, like this one here, that cupid in the center, that is a mold that I have at home that I can make those with. Okay? The skull in here is just a cheap styrofoam skull with the back half of it cut off. The scroll work on this one, that's actually wood. Okay? This is what you would get to decorate cabinets and stuff in the home. Okay? Guess what? That's what that is. Alright? So there's all kinds of stuff all around you. You just have to let your mind wander a little bit and look at stuff and go, I can do something with that.
How good would like lace paper, like table mats, lace cut out, would that show up too good on?
I don't know. I've never
that?
tried it. My advice?
It would give you a little highlighted areas.
You have a
I
little.
didn't know whether it would stand up to the.
It might. I would probably want to coat it with. Now you're talking about actual lace fabric.
It's paper, lace,
Oh, it's paper?
rolling type deals that you can make more ornate for old lady.
If you didn't make them too wet so they didn't lose their shapes.
Yeah. You'll be able to.
Something you could actually, put on something wet and sticky, make it stay in place and then coat over the top of it.
Yeah, once it's dry.
That way.
Yeah.
Maybe a base coat.
That way it would give you like a wedding type, painty type of feel on tombstones for
Yeah,
like the
absolutely.
lovely.
Maybe dry brush
I've never
on
tried
top
it,
of
but
it,
yeah,
sort of
totally.
highlight it all.
Yeah.
She's the creative one in the family.
Any other questions? Oh, good. Like what?
Tana.
Oh, it'd be the brown that you're seeing on that? Oh, that's just a base coat, yeah, that's kind of a cream colored base coat. Yep. And then, like I said, this one's got a sponge treatment on it. This one here, you'll see the little black, speckles, if you look at it closely. You can get that,
Stone fleck.
huh?
Stone fleck.
Yeah, stone fleck, spray paint. That's what's on there, okay? But you want to make sure you do a base coat first, because the spray paint's got petroleum in it, and everybody knows that it will melt the foam. So, yeah. So you always want to make sure that you have a base coat on it. That's why I want to help me out. So,
Acetone and foam does not mix.
acetone and foam does not mix, that is correct. I do have one little presentation to make, and I need Evil and Ira to come up here.
She's hiding over there.
Is she hiding?
There you go.
What? Night ball.
Last time we had to stand up somewhere together, we got married.
Aww. He's gonna throw stuff at you first.
No, last time I had to stand up.
It's kind of like rice.
A couple of years ago, in Indiana, somebody said, I'll be there for a cup of hell of high water. He threw both of them at me. Oh, hi, Davey. Yeah, the Missouri River, the Mississippi River's out 100 degrees outside.
We've been coming down here for, what, 3 or 4 years now? Something like that, yeah. And I do want to thank you guys. You've always treated us
Brad,
like family when we come.
Brad, big tombstone, sorry.
Okay.
Please, thank you.
You
Oh,
guys
yeah,
have
I know
always,
you missed looking at me.
Put it back, put it back.
you've always treated us like family. You've always been real good to us. We're happy to be a part of the Kreepfest. And we wanted to do something to kind of show our appreciation. We thought about giving you a certificate of appreciation. Nah, that's just paper. Thought about giving you money. Nah, we're broke. So I decided to get a little creative, and I'm hoping that you can find some good use for this.
Yeah, we hope to see that for many, many years.
Oh, yeah. We love all you guys.
Yeah, we all love y'all. That's why we do this. We wouldn't be doing this, what, for 9 years now?
Yeah. They should be our check here.
Yeah, it's all Darkman's fault because Evil said, I don't have a life, I'll just take over. And
Well, he was like so busy. He said, I can't really devote much time to it. I'm like, I don't have a life, I'll do it.
But now, I got all this family. It'd be nothing to call up one of you guys and ask for advice. And I know none of you would go, oh, just him, never mind. But it's all you call me and I'll call back and I answer everybody's questions best in my abilities.
Then why didn't you tell me to stay home?
Because I wanted to see you. Oh, him? He's your problem now.
That's what I mean. Tell me to stay home that night.
I wasn't there.
I'd still be here.
You still be.
I know what I am.
Hey, tell her to use more lube next time. Won't be much pain. Oh, that's beautiful. Do I have to build another shadow box for this?
Yes.
In
In 2004, my first Kreepfest.
Yeah, 2004 was the very first.
A demo of Tombstone making, and I went and had everybody sign it, and I had our build me a shadow box. It's in my office.
It's hanging on the wall,
If you ever
actually.
see, if you go through our Christmas pictures, you see pictures of our Christmas tree in the background, you can see that from 2004, my signed Kreepfest Tombstone. So
That's beautiful. It will be at Kreepfest for many, many years.
yeah,
It's not mine. One, it's not.
Yay!